Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 4:06 now. Coming up on the program, I've got Ben Cline, the congressman, joining us at 4:30. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. We'll get his reaction to Robert Hur's testimony before Congress today. Brianna Lyman is here at 5 o'clock from the Federalists. Adam Schiff is trying to get the intel community to interfere in the election again this year. And then at 5:30, Jake Denton joins us from the Heritage Foundation. We'll talk about Tik Tok, a social media company that's very interested in interfering in all sorts of things in the United States, to include our elections. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. By the way, on TikTok, I'm watching right now, as all around me, the most fascinating debate is breaking out on the right about whether or not it is appropriate to use a piece of legislation to force a divestiture, to make it so that the Chinese Communist Party can no longer control this poisonous social media platform, which they've been using to run a psyop on the United States and, of course, a surveillance operation on the United States as well. It's the biggest thing among young Americans, this TikTok app. And, again, it's controlled by the Communist Chinese. And if you're wondering why everything is so crazy, that's a big reason. That's a huge reason. And, getting rid of a CCP influence op is a good thing to have as a priority, big time. So now a debate is breaking out about whether or not this piece of legislation is narrowly targeted enough so as not to give the government broad powers to hurt your liberty in some other way. And I love those kinds of debates because they mean a lot to me. And I know they mean a lot to you, which is like you take a close look at a piece of legislation, you figure out what Washington is up to. Are they exploiting a threat to the American people in order to consolidate more power onto themselves? I'm always suspicious of that. Always. Now, there are people that I like on both sides of this debate already. Thomas Massie, who I think is great on spending. He's got all sorts of really interesting opinions there. He's great on trying to, stick it to the government, hold them accountable, libertarian guy. He is out saying that this thing is a Trojan horse. He calls it a so-called TikTok ban as a Trojan horse. He says the president will be given power to ban websites, not just apps. The person breaking a new law, the new law is deemed to be the U.S. or offshore internet hosting service or app store, not the foreign adversary, says Thomas Massie. So he says this is a threat to American liberty. Be careful here. And, of course, I pause and go, okay, what's going on here? I'm concerned. But I also want to know who's influencing Thomas Massie. Well, here's a good one for you. Do you know that he has a huge donor by the name of Jeff Yass who's given him $32,200 since 2020? And Jeff Yass happens to be the billionaire with the biggest U.S. stake in TikTok. Okay, so Thomas Massie has a substantial conflict of interest. He's also receiving money from the Club for Growth, which also takes money from the same guy, the same billionaire, Jeff Yass. So in that sense, these guys have a conflict of interest. I'm sitting back watching going, okay, where do I fall on this? Elon Musk has come out and says that this law is not about TikTok. It's about censorship and government control. If it were just about TikTok, it would only cite foreign control as the issue, but it does not, Elon says. And then there's people on the other side of the debate. Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner, good guy, the kind of guy you want on the FCC, says that there's an important point raised here by Elon. He says it's good. The good news is that this particular bill is limited not only to foreign controlled, but to foreign adversary controlled, and only when additional specific criteria are met. So he says, in particular, the bill does not give the government any authority over individual users, unlike other bills that have been presented. Second, the bill only applies to applications and websites controlled by one of the four defined foreign adversary countries: China, Iran, North Korea, or Russia. That's it. Not ones that just have operations there. It must be controlled by those governments. It can't just be, they have data centers there or they have engineers that work in that country. No, they have to be controlled by those governments. China, Iran, North Korea, or Russia. Well, that's TikTok, baby. That's what TikTok is. It's controlled by the Chinese government. Number 3, he says, then only if it presents a demonstrated and significant threat to national security. Control alone isn't even enough under the bill. 4, and then only after public process provided and Congress reported to with a description of the specific national security threat. he said. All of these hoops must be cleared and met, so it is very narrow, says Brendan Carr. I think the confusion has arisen from a separate provision that means Apple and Google can't keep TikTok up and available in the U.S. on their app stores if and only if TikTok chooses not to divest. But that provision doesn't sweep those or any other company into the bill's provisions about banning only foreign adversary-controlled apps. It just says if you're determined to be a spy app, then businesses obviously can't give you a backdoor into the United States. But again, the bill's substantive provisions about being banned has no application at all to anything that doesn't clear each of those four hoops above. Okay, that's Brendan Carr. Let me pause on a criticism of this for a moment. I'm not sure what app Iran has that might cause trouble in the United States. I don't know what app North Korea is presently running in the United States that might cause trouble. I'm also not aware of what app Russia is controlling that might cause trouble in the United States. So you've included 3 countries in there, no question, adversaries of the United States. But that's not TikTok. Why not just target this to China? And here's one of the openings that I am concerned about, the Russia one in particular. You know how the American left operates. If you come out and you say, hey, why are we spending all this money on Ukraine? Do you know what the left treats you as? Well, as a stooge of the Putin government, right? As a Russian infiltrator. Well, in that sense, again, I'm being completely honest with you here. All I want is to figure out a way to get rid of this damn TikTok thing. It's destroying kids, wrecking the country, spying on people. But the way the left operates, they'll use Russia, they'll scream, and suggest that, oh, you're controlled by Putin. Is that a basis by which they could take down, say, Twitter? There's too much Putin propaganda on Twitter. Take them down. Foreign adversary, controlled, blah, blah, blah. We'll see. This is one of the reasons why we're having Jake Denton on. Jake's going to talk to us at 5:30 about this, because this is a very live issue right now. Congress is debating this. There seems to be some agreement, which, of course, is always a place where you get nervous. You're like, why is there agreement? But the priority seems right to me. It seems right to me. Get rid of TikTok and do it fast. The federal government's already banned it for years. They banned it under Trump. Trump is the one who released the statement saying it was a massive national security threat. At the moment, I mentioned to you yesterday, Trump has now signaled his support. He said so in a CNBC interview yesterday morning for keeping TikTok, for fear that it would that the audience would move from TikTok to then Facebook, where Facebook would then once again meddle in our elections. Entirely possible. But if you think it's bad when Facebook meddles in the elections, you should see what's happening on TikTok. It's just one insanity after another. So that's what's going on there. Also, I did see that Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation, who we did ask if he could join us today. He's traveling, so Jake is going to join us today. Jake's the policy expert, so it's perfect to talk to Jake. But Kevin tweeted the following just a couple hours ago on this subject. He says, as Congress prepares to vote on the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications on Wednesday, that would be tomorrow, it's crucial to question why TikTok doesn't opt for divestment instead of exaggerating concerns over a potential ban it isn't obligated to face. Yeah, that's right. It wouldn't be a ban on TikTok. I may have said that actually over the course of the last few minutes a couple times too. It's a forced divestment. Sorry, Chinese Communist Party, you can't control it. Sell it off. Let an American investor buy into this thing. Take over the app. That's fine. But China, the Chinese Communist Party, or for that matter, anybody else, but the Chinese Communist Party, you can't control this thing. Kevin says the answer lies in TikTok's deep connections to the CCP through its parent company, ByteDance. Beijing-based ByteDance is subject to the People's Republic of China's laws and policies that permit the Chinese Communist Party access to the data it collects. Yeah, it's a law in China. If you have this data, the government has access to all of it. All of it. It's not like here. I mean, here you have tech companies who, of course, have been giving away data. You see this week that the feds are trying to work with the video game companies to look for domestic violent extremists here in the United States. So video game companies are monitoring their own players and then sharing information with the Department of Homeland Security. This guy might be an extremist because he said something stupid. We've got enough of our own problems. We don't need the communists in China being involved. He said Chinese officials, former and current, are embedded in TikTok's parent company. and they're involved in the company's inner workings through an internal corporate CCP committee and a board seat on ByteDance's domestic subsidiary. Leaked recordings and testimonies from ex-employees reveal that the CCP has supreme access to all TikTok data, with China-based engineers accessing non-public American user data. TikTok was even implicated in an attempt to surveil the locations of American journalists by ByteDance employees. Beyond this, TikTok consistently censors content, suppressing information on China's Uyghur population genocide, Hong Kong protests, Tibetan independence, and generally critical topics of the CCP. This doesn't even scratch the surface of China's noxious influence on our next generation, as TikTok has become a primary news source. Reports indicate that TikTok attempted to manipulate public opinion in the 2022 midterms by pushing divisive content to U.S. users focused on cultural flashpoints like abortion, as well as deliberately serving pro-China content to a U.S. audience the same year. Americans don't owe China the right to spy on and manipulate our citizens. That's true. The First Amendment doesn't extend to the CCP, nor does it permit free rein for foreign adversaries to control the social media apps that Americans use. Moreover, China doesn't reciprocate regarding our tech companies operating in their markets. Finally, this bill is narrow and targeted, written so that it only applies to social media companies, social media apps, and associated websites controlled by China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea that pose a national security threat, a list that is both in statute and can only be changed by an act of Congress. The reference to websites exists to ensure that foreign adversary-controlled websites like TikTok don't live on once app stores prohibit the apps themselves from being downloaded should the divestment fail. So a simple question remains, why won't ByteDance just choose the divestment option and avoid potential prohibition via app stores and web hosting services? The answer suggests TikTok is too valuable for the CCP. Well, that makes sense. I mean, think about it. What is the number one influence weapon for the Chinese Communist Party on the planet right now? What is their number one influence weapon? It's TikTok. Number two is probably Hollywood, honestly. Hollywood doesn't do films critical of China. In fact, Hollywood movies routinely include turning China into the hero of their films because of Chinese investment in Hollywood. That's an open secret. What was it? 7 years in Tibet was the last, I've cited this before, but it was before the turn of the century, was the last time a major Hollywood studio made a film critical of China. That ended now over 2 decades ago, and it hasn't come back. It hasn't come back. So Kevin finishes here. This new policy proposal delivers long overdue protections to the American people from the Chinese Communist Party's relentless attempts to surveil and influence our citizens. It is why Heritage Action will key vote the bill ahead of Wednesday's vote. So there you go. So the Heritage Action position, and Kevin Roberts, again, a guy I trust, says this is the right thing to do. Meanwhile, my buddy Tucker Carlson has another update on this subject, and wouldn't you know, he appears to be coming out on the other side of this thing now. He says, he just tweeted literally 38 minutes ago, so I'll share this with you, some breaking news, that AOC was in a meeting today that he apparently knows about. He said she got a classified briefing this afternoon. I don't know why anyone's giving classified briefings to AOC. I think that's really the headline to this. The government's so reckless with classified information, they're telling AOC things. In a classified briefing this afternoon, attended by officials from the Biden Justice Department, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claimed that Elon Musk committed election interference in 2022. What? In 2022? Oh, you mean when Republicans won real big? What is she talking about? Elon Musk committed election interference in 2022 by, quote, changing the algorithms on X to alter the results of the midterms that year. So AOC's tortured reasoning is that Elon meddled in the election by not letting Twitter meddle in the election. Tucker says, not coincidentally, the anti-TikTok legislation that's now being debated on the Hill would allow the federal government to force the sale of any social media platform that interferes in elections. Now, pay attention to what I said a moment ago. You had Kevin Roberts say, well, it's narrowly targeted. It's just these foreign adversary-controlled apps. It would be if you're controlled by Russia or Iran or North Korea or, most importantly, China. Tucker goes on, just so you know what's coming in 2025. So Tucker is suspicious. I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious. No question. Again, we'll have more of a conversation with Jake Denton coming up here at 5:30. Something needs to be done. We'll talk to Jake about the specifics here and what gives him confidence in this bill, because it sounds like Heritage thinks it's the right thing to do. It's 4:20. Let's go to the phones. I've got Mike calling in from Rockville, line 2. Mike, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Cline Show. Hello, sir.
Hey, Vince.
Hey there.
There's no one that's more anti-China than I am, going back to the 80s, but this is a trickier issue. I read the bill last night because I'm writing a piece on this, and I haven't heard this point brought up on this show yet, but the bill sets up a procedure to do to future companies what this bill does to TikTok, but it only requires the president to give Congress notice, 30 days notice before the 180 days kick in. Why would we ever give a president this unilateral authority without a congressional vote to hit the next company, which, as you greatly noted, includes Russia, which means that we all know exactly what they're going to do to claim that Russia has control over unpopular apps or anything Tucker Carlson does.
I'm reading the Washington Post summarized it this way, what you're referencing. They say divestment could mean selling the app to a U.S.-based company, although the specific definition of a, quote, qualified divestiture would be determined by the U.S. president. The bill also creates a process for the president to designate certain social media apps as, quote, subject to the control of a foreign adversary, meaning other apps could be singled out as well. That's how the Washington Post describes it. You think that's accurate, Mike?
It's pretty close, yeah. But it does not require additional congressional votes for future companies.
Yeah, there should be, I agree with you, there should be a tremendous amount of hurdles involved here before we bring the hammer down on one of these companies. TikTok is the one that deserves it, that's for sure. Mike, thank you for that call. It's going to inform my conversation with Jake Denton coming up at 5:30 this afternoon. A big issue. Congress set to take it up tomorrow, and we want to make sure we have a complete understanding of it. Thank you, Mike. Hey, good afternoon to you. 4:35 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up at 5 o'clock, Brianna Lyman is here from The Federalist. We talked to her about Adam Schiff's latest promise that the intel community is going to interfere in the 2024 election. And then Jake Denton joins us from the Heritage Foundation. We talk about that hotly contested TikTok bill making its way through Capitol Hill right now. And you can talk to us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL.
Okay. And Mr. Zwaniter became aware of your appointment as special counsel, correct?
At some point, Mr. Zwaniter did become aware of my appointment, yes.
And upon learning of the investigation, Mr. Zwaniter deleted digital audio recordings of his conversations with Mr. Biden during the writing of the book, Promise Me, Dad.
Correct.
Did investigators with your office interviewed Mr. Zwaniter about the deleted recordings, and he admitted that part of his motivation for deleting this recording was because he was aware there was an investigation, correct?
Correct.
And did this conduct raise concerns with your office?
It did. We considered it to be significant evidence that we needed to follow up on.
But not significant enough to charge. That was Robert Hur today, the special counsel, testifying today before Congress. The man you heard questioning him, Congressman Ben Cline of Virginia. He joins us now. Congressman, good to have you with us, sir. Thank you.
Vince, good to be with you.
Were you satisfied by Robert Hur's answers today?
I wasn't, and I think there's more to it than we're able to get to the bottom of in just a hearing where we each get 5 minutes to really drill down. You know, the inconsistencies that I was trying to bring out were increasingly clear. The special counsel found several different motives for Biden to keep all of the records that he did, including what they called the Thanksgiving Day memo that dealt with Afghanistan, secret national security memos that he was hanging on to essentially justify his positions and help to write the book that he was eventually writing. So he had motive to keep all these documents, and then Hur concluded that, well, that because of the way that they were stored in a garage haphazardly, that it didn't look like he had the requisite intent to actually hold on to national security information, but the two don't go together.
What do you need to keep them in an evil lair somewhere, like to prove that you were like trying to commit a crime? Like he kept them at his house. He stole documents he shouldn't have had.
Exactly. And I asked him, what his record was in jury trials, because if you're any good as a prosecutor, you don't just wait to only prosecute the slam dunks, although federal prosecutors are known for doing that more than local prosecutors. If you have probable cause to believe that the crime has occurred, you go and get the indictment, and then you try and prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And so yes. You don't just wait for the slam dunks, and I think he should have gone ahead and pursued it.
Well, so he had evidence that Biden stole the documents. He had evidence that Biden disseminated the documents. He had evidence that he disseminated them to people who didn't have security clearances. He had evidence that there was an attempted cover-up to hide the fact that he had disseminated those documents. And he had evidence of a monetary benefit to the tune of $8 million for the use of those documents to enrich Joe Biden. I'm not sure what else he needs.
Me either, and part of my questioning, and I didn't really get into it, but I want to know what was his thinking when he realized he had to go present this to the Attorney General, and if he had said what I think he believed, which was that it should have been prosecuted, what would the Attorney General have done? What kind of roadblocks would the Attorney General have thrown up in his way to prevent him? Would he have prevented him from making the report public? He could have redacted several parts of it. He could have undermined the case from within. So, there are a lot of ways in which the Attorney General could have prevented a successful prosecution, and it may be that Mr. Hur just decided, not even worth it to make the effort to go ahead and try and bring this charge.
There's a lot that happened today. Matt Gaetz had a moment where he was asking Robert Hur about Biden lying about sharing classified documents. This is what that sounded like.
February 8th, the White House question, Mr. President, why did you share classified information with your ghostwriter? The President, I did not share classified information. I did not share it. I guarantee I did not. That's not true, is it, Mr. Hur?
That is inconsistent with the findings based on the evidence in my report.
Yes, it's a lie. It's just what regular people would say, right? Yeah, all right.
Yes, he says. It's a lie. So you have evidence here that the President of the United States lied, and we're all supposed to just kind of be like, oh, well, I guess that's what happened?
No, and that's infuriating that, this Justice Department has essentially established a different standards of justice for different individuals, and while you have, as Matt Gaetz said, in his view, neither one of them should have been charged, neither Biden nor Trump. But what you do have is evidence that substantiates the argument that he had motive. Biden had motive to take the documents. Biden had reason to be evasive about his reasoning, and Hur, for all his accomplishments, declined to further pursue this charge.
Yeah, he did. Steve Cohen, the Democrat, today suggested that Biden is not senile. He said to say that is disrespectful to, quote, senior people with memory disability. So I guess the new explanation for Joe Biden is that he has memory disability. That's what the best Democrats could summon today?
Well, I like the questioning from Nathaniel Moran, one of my Republican colleagues from Texas, who brought up the standard in the District of Columbia to require a guardianship for seniors. And the definition almost read verbatim with Hur's conclusions about Biden. And so essentially making the point that someone needs to call social services because we got a senior out there who's in need of guardianship.
Well, here, I don't know if I didn't get to watch the entire hearing, so perhaps you can answer. I'm wondering if it came up, the fact that here you have a Justice Department attorney under Joe Biden, he works for Biden ultimately, who concludes that Biden is a sympathetic elderly man with a failing memory. How can he make that assessment in an official document and then simultaneously say that, that he should be president of the United States?
I think that's a great question. It's clear that they didn't want the transcript released because they waited until today to release the transcript. We had literally minutes to review it before we had him present to answer questions, and we'll still be going through it, over the next several days and weeks. But it was clear that the White House was trying to avoid having this be further investigated by the Judiciary Committee. It's not going to stop us. We're going to continue to highlight this White House's and this president's not just potentially criminal behavior, violating the laws of the United States regarding retention of information, but their efforts to avoid accountability for it, and we're going to continue to pursue that.
So in your view, Congressman Ben Cline, given everything we now know about what Joe Biden did, the documents he stole, how he used them, how he enriched himself, would any other American be given such grace by the United States Department of Justice? There's a lot of conversation on the left about nobody is above the law. How does Joe Biden's treatment compare to, say, any other American?
Well, it's the Biden family is what you can say, and the Biden family is definitely given a very light touch by this Justice Department. You just look at allowing the statute of limitations to pass on certain offenses for Hunter. You can look at a number of other instances where this Justice Department looks the other way at certain activities being done by the Biden administration and the family.
It's crazy, and we saw it play out today. Congressman Ben Cline of Virginia, thank you very much for both questioning Robert Hur today and sharing the experience with us. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Vince.
Good to talk to you. It's wild. Let's see. I've got Sam in Alexandria, line 2. Sam, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Cline Show.
Hey, good afternoon, Vince. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I tell you what, as a former federal employee, I'll just put it that way, and I have a lot of friends that were involved in the government, whether it was the military or the federal agencies, and we all had classes, every year, every 2 years on how to handle classified documents. And guaranteed, and that's what's really frustrating about this, we talk about the different tiers of justice.
Yep.
Absolutely any one of us that would have had classified documents in our safe at home, under our bed at home, under the couch, in the garage, would be sitting in lockup right now. And, with this ghostwriter, the federal charge 1001, which, everybody says is the low-hanging fruit. If you lie to a federal investigator or federal agent, that's automatic jail time. And we listened to this stuff today. It's like, why was at least the ghostwriter? That's low-hanging fruit, brother. Why isn't that guy up on charges?
He tried to delete the recording of Joe Biden saying, hey, I found classified information. I'm going to share it with you for the book.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll read this real quick. Statutory terms are violated if someone falsifies, conceals, or covers up by a trick, scheme, or device a material fact. Oh, my gosh. Close the book. Give me go ahead and chalk up a victory for me.
Yes.
Because this guy's done that all day
and
long.
there's no justice. So there's the next level would be the Justice Department policy debate about whether or not you could charge a sitting president of the United States. And the answer to that, in recent history and past history has been no. You don't charge the sitting president. But in this case, this guy's not the president. The ghostwriter's not the president. If he's a part of an effort to cover up on behalf of Joe Biden, he can be prosecuted, and they decided not to. And that gives you more evidence, doesn't it, Sam, that this is a whitewash on behalf of the Bidens?
Well, not only that, Vince, is that they're trying to chalk up a bunch of stuff against Trump, and if he was guilty of something, let it go for it. But this current sitting president did these things as senator and a vice president. So you're telling me that if any president did something prior to being covered under the functions of their office, which Trump can arguably take to court, then that's still a card, a bypass card on getting charged? I don't think so.
Well, Sam, last one for you. Let's just say hypothetically that you weren't so good with these classified documents, like of course you were throughout your career, and you took them home, and then say you established an $8 million book deal to disseminate them. Do you think you'd be able to get away with that?
Sure, if I was sitting in
Leavenworth,
someplace without extradition.
Yeah, $8 million or Gitmo or something. Yeah, no, that's $8 million. That's important.
Yeah, I guarantee I'd probably be sitting in Gitmo. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, Sam. Thank you as always for your calls. Let me get Rick and Reston in here. Line 3. Hello, Rick. You're on the Vince Cline Show. Rick.
Yeah. Hey, Vince. Thanks
so
much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
And what the gentleman was just saying was really spot on. I listening to this, and I think Hur, might be a quality guy. I don't know, but Teddy Roosevelt said, I'm going to paraphrase him here, when it came to U.S. neutrality in World War I, hell hath no place for those base angels that would choose neutrality in the situation. That idea just is running through my head for the last several months. Hell hath no place for those base angels who would ruin American institutions and the integrity of those institutions because of some stupid high school level hatred of Donald Trump. And this all tracks back to that high school level hatred of Donald Trump. I talk to people, former Bush administration, I'm retired also, former Bush administration people, and the Trump derangement syndrome is insane. And the level to which these people will stoop to protect anybody that can possibly keep Trump from possibly being victorious again. And, that translates in this current Biden situation right now. Anyway, it's just, I'm infuriated.
Well, their hatred of Trump leads them to rationalize tyranny. So they'll think you can do anything you want so long as it involves targeting Trump and the people who support him. That's entirely allowed because they say it's a moral imperative.
That's 100% spot on, and it's just disgusting. And I got chastised roundly by some former seniors from the previous administration for, being willing to consider, doing something in a next conservative administration. And of course, we were talking about Trump, obviously.
Sure.
And they looked at me as though I was unpatriotic, that I wasn't just wanting to possibly serve my country again. It was insane. I mean, it's nuts.
There's a dangerous sort of mass psychosis going on right now, and we're seeing the product of it. And today, that you get this double standard playing out before the Congress with Robert Hur. Rick, thank you for everything. Really appreciate the call today, sir. All right, back to the phones we go. Tom calling in from Cincinnati. That's in Ohio. Line 2. Tom, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Cline Show.
Hey, Ben. As I was telling your screener, and love your show in a non-sexual way, but, think about that young corpsman, and that's an Obama term.
Yes, I was about to say. Yeah, that's Obama.
Yeah, out of Massachusetts. He got 11 years in Leavenworth for playing Call of Duty and sharing. It was during that Chinese spy balloon. He shared it online with his buddies, and one of them ratted him out. He got jailed, and he's now serving 11 years. Yet Biden can get away with this thing, and Hur just lets him skate. Yeah.
No, there's all sorts of people who've been charged and thrown in jail for a very long time. It was Jack Teixeira, actually, who was just busted recently, and it was a 16-year sentence. He was just for sharing these government secrets. Biden, I guess, given his stature in the government, his status as a Democrat, his status as a Biden, he can steal documents from the federal government. They reviewed, what did they say, 7 million documents they went through? It was a lot of documents. And then he gets to use it to make $8 million. I don't think Jack Teixeira made $8 million here, but Biden apparently did, Tom.
Yeah. Yep, you're right.
Oh, thanks for liking the show. You're allowed to like it sexually, by the way. That's on the menu, too. That's ridiculous. I can't believe I just said that. Hey, coming up on the show, Jake Denton will join us from the Heritage Foundation. We'll talk about TikTok. TikTok, Congress wants to force the Communist Party to get out of the social media business in America. But could this legislation be a vehicle for American government tyranny? The big debate taking off today. We'll explore it with Jake coming up.